my name is Sam. Welcome to the first episode of Candidate Conversations, where we introduce you to candidates in the 9th District. I'm here with Erica Lawrence. She is a candidate for House District 72. She is a New Albany native, and she is invigorated to give back to her community as a state representative. Dr. Lawrence received her PhD in education from Spalding University, and she has served as an educator, school counselor, and principal. Nobody is as qualified as Erica to understand the ins and outs of education policy, and Indiana needs her in the State House. Outside of education, Erica's policy focuses include healthcare, recovery from the COVID pandemic, improving technological infrastructure, and veteran support, just to name a few highlights. So Dr. Lawrence, I'd like to thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you, Sam. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's great to be here with you. So my first question that I have for you today is, what inspired you to run for office?
You know, I am a proud daughter of District 72, and I would not be having such a wonderful life experience right now had it not been for my foundation here in the public schools. I matriculated through Green Valley Elementary School, Scribner Junior High at the time, and New Albany High School, and had amazing experiences here. I had amazing experiences with the arts. Was never an athlete, but I definitely enjoyed the athletic competitions through our teams at New Albany High School. Language, I participated in the sister city program when I was at New Albany High School in Montpellier, France. And I was just blessed with these amazing experiences. And now I look at the public schools, and it concerns me that so many public school dollars are being lost in the voucher system. And public schools need those funds. They need those resources. They need the resources of great people and personnel staffing those schools. And it really breaks my heart that children are not getting everything they need to be successful in school and to have all of those resources. So I've watched how this spending has happened and how we have moved away from having certified teacher positions in elementary schools, especially in the fine arts. And it's making me concerned. It's making me concerned about the quality of what we're able to provide our children, especially as we watch those dollars move away. And that was really a clarion call for me, because regardless of what the question is, education is always the answer. And for our community, be it a healthcare issue, be it an economic issue, be it an infrastructure issue, be it a roads issue, when we think about so many different components that make a community great, we've got to have great education. That is the foundation. That's our starting point. And so, yes, I am invigorated about this race because I want to make sure that education, and I'm talking about holistic, lifelong learning, that early childhood, K-12, post-secondary, and even the education work that happens in our unions, because they absolutely help our professionals be able to have the cutting edge skills and technology needed to do those jobs that we absolutely need in our communities. So that was the education question for me, was the clarion call that got me into this race.
That's awesome. As someone who grew up in the public school system, that's really heartwarming. And I just know those teachers and administrators shaped my life. So it's really great to have you running for office. And so going along those lines, you've dedicated your entire life to serving students in many capacities. You're obviously an incredibly dedicated educator and administrator. So what do you think that educators bring to the table politically and outside of education policy? What perspective can educators offer that will improve Indiana politics?
Well, absolutely. When we think outside of just the classroom, it really concerns me that in Indiana, working a 40-hour work week, families are still being able to qualify for free and reduced price lunches. So ultimately what that means is that a person can work 40 hours a week and still be identified as poor. And the working poor That does not make sense. It does not make sense for someone who works 40 hours a week and they are still identified as poor. That has to change. We have to talk about how we can increase earning for people who are working full-time jobs. So ultimately what that means is what are we doing to help have great wages here in Indiana? What are we doing to make sure that the people who work in Indiana are the best, that they have the best skills, that they are using the best technology, and we have the best infrastructure? Those are all questions that come down to our communities and the wellness of our communities when we think about poverty and we think about lack of resources and access. So we have to consider those things for our families and how people are able to make an income and make ends meet in this one. Now we're in a COVID society where every business has had to retool and think about their business model, and we've had to turn on a dime. And we absolutely have had to turn on a dime technologically. How do we close that technology gap to make sure that people have access? It used to be that the internet was a luxury. To have internet at home was a luxury. To have high-speed internet at home, especially. But now we see that it is an absolute utility. We need internet access in our homes because that's how we're able to do our jobs. That's how we're able to communicate and stay connected. That's how we're able to learn. Clearly, we see that as our children are learning from home. So there are so many areas that we need to focus on in regards to making our communities the best for our families and how our families can benefit from the resources that we have in our communities, having great infrastructure such as healthcare and hospitals. We I don't want to go to a hospital that looks like it was built in 1950 and all the equipment in there is, outdated. That's not where I want to get my health care. And I don't know about any other American or anybody else in District 72. When it comes to our health care, we want the best. And those are things outside of the classroom that educators understand, that they understand the needs of children, not just within the classroom, but also outside of the classroom, the needs that they have with their health, with their emotional health, their mental health, their physical health, that wellness, all of those areas of wellness are important.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. And shifting gears, I was wondering what issues does your district face that your opponent isn't addressing, and what are you going to do to fix it when you're in office?
Well, one issue that I'm really upset about is a program. For example, Jeffersonville has it. Jeffersonville has a program called the Jeffersonville Promise. And when young people graduate from Jeffersonville High School, they are able to attend Ivy Tech and they do not have to worry about a tuition bill. And my opponent fought vigorously to end that program. And thankfully, that program was able to be successful. And I would love to have a similar program here in Floyd County for the graduates of our schools here in District 72. So prior to my work as a principal, I was a school counselor, and I worked with young people to help them prepare for that transition from high school to higher education in the world of work. And so I would love to be able to have those sorts of programs and scholarship opportunities for young people to know that they can walk out of our high schools in District 72 and go into a program at Ivy Tech and not have the burden of the debt associated with higher education, because that's really stifling to young people and their families when they think about making that decision between, do I start working or do I incur debt so that I can make and really improve my choices and my skill and make me a better person to add into the workforce because I have more skills and more abilities.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you on that. We need more of those programs, especially in higher education, with how necessary getting that degree is now. And so I finally just have one more question. So I'm a college student. I'm a proud IU sophomore, but I'm but I'm concerned about the level of political apathy among my generation. And so I was wondering, what have you done to get students inspired to vote, and what would you say to students that don't believe that their vote matters?
You know, you're speaking to a woman who used to be a social studies teacher. And I taught US history at the high school level. And so I absolutely hear that voice of when you talk about learn apathy for younger generations of Americans, and that they don't feel like their vote counts. And I think what is going on in our communities right now, as we think about the race question, I think younger people are starting to become more engaged because they see themselves, they see a reflection of themselves and how the law impacts their lives. And so if we think about the positive outcomes for this movement that's going on right now, it's absolutely to think about young people getting engaged because they recognize that laws impact them, that policy impacts them, and it impacts their wellness, it impacts their ability to earn money, it impacts their ability to incur debt, especially when we think about student loan debt, young people really speaking out about the cost of higher education and how they're able to um, have a great education and not walk out of any university and be saddled with, six-figure dollar amount of debt. That's a lot of money that you have to pay back, and you are at the beginning of your career. So getting young people engaged, absolutely. Right now, we say all politics are local. And when people feel as though the issues that are happening in our communities, in our country, impact their lives directly, then there is a better opportunity for them to get engaged because they feel like they are a part of the process. So education is also important. How we educate young people about civics and social studies, and that they learn that it is about their future, that voting is about what their lifestyles will be able to be like as they get older and as they start moving through adulthood. So connecting those dots for young people is critical so that they understand that the community is depending on them. Our society is depending on people who are emerging professionals, emerging graduates. We need them to use their voice to stand up for political change and for social action.
Thank you so much. That is definitely something that is near and dear to my heart. And so I really appreciate it. So those are all the questions that I have. It was great having you to kick off this series. And I just want to say thank you one more time for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate the time to be here and be able to share because a part of the democratic process is absolutely about education and learning about the candidates that are running for office so that you can learn what their perspectives are and how their perspectives might be different than what's the status quo. And so being able to have this opportunity to share and be a part of the democratic process is vitally important to me and to our nation. Thanks a lot, Sam.